Well, good afternoon and aloha, and welcome to today's conversation, which is all about how to take control of your thinking. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Dr. Jane Lewis. I'm the founder of Secret Art of Huna, and I've been teaching Huna, the spiritual and energetic practices of the ancient Hawaiians, for about 15 years. I've been studying for about 20 years. And for those of you who do know me, welcome. You're very welcome to today's conversation. So if you want to participate in the conversation and you're on the Facebook Live, then do just click. It'll ask you. The system will ask you in the box. Just click on that and give permission for Ecamm to allow you to communicate with me, and then we can talk. So I wanted to talk about taking control of your thinking, because it's such an important part of how we can really develop and manage our lives. So teaching Huna as I do, the processes in Huna are really, really fast. They're brilliant, high speed healing processes. In fact, one client described them to me as rocket fuel. She goes into a Huna process and within seconds, minutes, whatever she's dealing with, it's done. And there's a change in her system. So if Huna is rocket fuel, why don't we just use that? Well, yeah, it is rocket fuel. And using the tools and techniques and processes that I often teach is an brilliant way of very quickly solving things that are going on for you. But actually thinking about your thinking and taking control of your thinking is a powerful way of ensuring that whatever it is you've had to heal doesn't crop up again. So that's what we're talking about today. It's how to stop a repetition of old stories and old patterns. People who feel really secure and fulfilled in themselves, that's what they do. It's one of the ways of feeling secure and fulfilled in yourself. Heal up what needs to be healed, and then pay attention to your thinking and how you might be creating situations for yourself so that you know what's going on. Stephen Covey, brilliant writer, wrote about taking control of the things that you can take control of. So understanding what you do have control in your life and taking control of that, understanding what you can influence in your life and influencing where you can, and really letting go of the rest. Because he understood that one of the things you do have control of, should you so choose to adopt tools and techniques for taking control of it, is your thinking. The Serenity Prayer, which was adopted by Alcoholics Anonymous and the various anonymous organizations by a guy, the surname's Niebuhr, the original prayer was, give me the courage to change what needs to be altered, the serenity to accept what cannot be helped, and the insight to know the one from the other. So again, it's about our thinking. It's about understanding what we can control, understanding what we can't, knowing the difference, and working only where we can change things, only where we have control. So how do you do that then? What are the models that you can use for doing that? For me, one of the most useful models is what I call the 4 E's. So, and I've talked about this in quite a few other videos, but I wanted to really focus in on this, to zoom in on this time. So the 4 E's are event, evaluation, emotion, and expression. So we have an event, something happens, and we are permanently evaluating our experience. We do this all the time. Everything that's happening to us at a very unconscious level, we are evaluating our experience. And we evaluate our experience based on the filters, the deep psychological filters that we have, beliefs that we have about ourselves, beliefs that we have about the way that life is organized, the world around us is organized. We evaluate on the basis of spiritual beliefs. We evaluate on the basis of how our physical body is feeling at any given time. People who have life-challenging illnesses, will evaluate in a very different way than people who are fit and healthy and bouncing around the place. So there are many, many filters at a deep psychological level that will influence how we evaluate an emotion, how we evaluate how we evaluate an event, beg your pardon, how we will evaluate our experience. And depending on how we evaluate our experience, that is going to then impact on the emotion that arises. Because if I have an experience and I'm feeling good about things, then the emotion that's going to arise is going to be happy or joyful or bouncy or whatever. But if I have an experience and I evaluate it in a negative way, then what's going to happen is the emotions that are going to arise tend to be negative. They tend to be fear or anger or frustration or unhappiness. And therefore, the way that we interpret and filter all that information into our own behavior, the way we express ourselves in the world, is going to be influenced by these two main things: the evaluation and the emotion that bubbles up, depending on how we evaluate the event. And that experience, then, that expression, influences the next time round. So take an example. When I was at school, I was bullied. I've talked a lot about this, and one of the bullying things that they did to me was they would put me into Coventry. Coventry is an old expression for when you don't talk to somebody, you just exclude them and you don't talk to them. And this happened to me quite a lot over the 10 years that I was at boarding school. So my experience, and I was at all girls schools, so my experience of being with girls and then with women, because of this experience that I had, because that was what happened to me quite frequently, I would evaluate groups of women. The emotion that would come up would be either fear or insecurity, because in my experience, groups of women would be mean to me, would be unkind. They'd put me in Coventry, they'd bully me. And therefore, every time that I came to a new group of women, I would go in there with the mindset that this was not a good place to be, that this would be unsecure, that they would do something, they would bully me, they would put me into Coventry. And because of that evaluation, because of that prejudgment on my part, a couple of things happened. One was that for years, I absolutely hated hanging out with women because I was terrified at some level that they would put me into Coventry or bully me. It's taken years of healing work on my part to change that experience, so that now, mostly, when I go into groups of women, I feel okay. I feel composed. I feel good about myself, particularly if I have a position of authority. Hi, Chantal. Good to see you. Particularly if I feel I have a position of authority or a position of knowledge or something to share, because I love sharing what I know, or where I'm kind of, grey-haired, wise old girl. That's good, because I can be confident. I can be there, and I can be, yeah. When I go into groups where I don't have that kind of role, that kind of position, that's when the old experience can come up and bite me in the bum. And this happened recently in a group I was in. I felt it was a new group of women that I joined. It was a Facebook group. And I felt quite disconnected, and I couldn't understand why I would feel disconnected. Had lots going for it. It was a small group. It was an intimate group. It was being really well managed by the facilitator, everything going for it. But something in me felt disconnected. And it was only when I started to explore that I realized that what was going on was this old pattern of assuming that women would put me into a silent place or disconnect from me or leave me out. All these experiences that I'd had, which was the way that I judged these women. Up came the emotion, not strongly because I've done a lot of healing work, but it was still there. And therefore, every time I went into this group, I would prejudge what their reaction to me would be. I would completely delete the fact that they were actually being very welcoming. I would completely delete the fact that they would ask my opinion. No, couldn't see it at all. And then when I was thinking about this disconnection and talking with my coach about it, realized what the background to it was, did some healing work. And the last time I went to that group, I was really surprised because they were welcoming. They said hi. They asked me for information. I shared something. They were grateful. Completely different experience. Because what I'd done with the healing work was to change the evaluation and the emotion, and therefore to change my experience in this group. So that's how this cycle plays out. And the healing work helps with changing the cycle. But there are other things that we can do as well. Do the healing work, change our beliefs about ourselves, which are usually based on experiences we've had in the past, often in childhood, not always in childhood, but often in childhood. But another piece that we can do is to listen to the language that we use with ourselves. So with these ladies in this group, the language I was using with myself was language around disconnection, not feeling part of it. If I'd noticed my own language and started to change it and change my thinking as to, rather than, oh, how disconnected I feel in this group, change my thinking to, what can I do that would make me feel more connected with this group? Slight change in language, but it changes the whole feeling. It changes the emotion and it changes the experience. So listening to our language, listening to our coulda, shoulda, woulda, particularly the shoulda and the woulda. You know, I should do this. It puts a lot of pressure on us. It sort of lights up our imposter syndrome and our perfectionist and our inner critic and all those other little inner voices that we have going when we start shoulding ourselves. Or when we start coulding, I could have done that, but I didn't. Then there's almost a blame attached to it. So listening to the language that we use with ourselves, listening to how often the inner critic, we give the inner critic free rein to me. You're not good enough. You're too stupid. You can't do this. You don't know who do this. Who are you to go into a group of strange women and try and connect with them? Those inner critic voices. Now, there's a lot you can do with the inner critic. One of the things is to understand its role. What's the inner critic trying to do for you? Very often, our inner critic is trying to keep us safe. It's trying to help stop us from being bullied or whatever the previous experience is. Very often that's part of its job. But what happens is it kind of gets flipped around. And what we then get is negative self-talk going on in our heads rather than something that's loving and feels like it's safe. So talking to your inner critic, acknowledge your inner critic. Hi, inner critic. I know you're there. Thank you for being there. Thank you for suggesting that maybe I need to pay attention to something. But today I'm just going to do it anyway. Just park yourself. But thank you for being there. Acknowledge your inner critic. Some people make fun of their inner critic. I had a client who made an inner critic puppet out of, it was sort of knitted puppet, or you could do a little Pinocchio drawing. But negotiating with your inner critic, negotiating with your inner perfectionist, because as I say, most of the time, the job they were originally set out to do was the job of helping you, of keeping you safe. But that was then and this is now. And we change a lot from childhood. So all those patterns which were supposed to keep us safe and possibly did once upon a time, they're no longer needed. They're no longer necessary. So understanding how that's playing out. So there are a couple of tips that you can use to help break this cycle. First one is focusing on what you really do have control of. Second one then is being aware. Hi, Joanna. The second one then is being aware of this cycle, this event, the evaluation you put on it, the emotion, and then how that expresses itself in your behavior, in our behavior. Another one is listening to the language that we use with ourselves and starting to understand where our inner critic, our inner perfectionist, and those kinds of characters, where did they come from? What was their original job? and how can we work with them so that the job that they once did, we really understand that they don't need to do that job anymore. And what they're doing is really more an undermining behavior. So thank you, Chantal. Thank you so much. So I hope that's been useful, and I look forward to talking to you in a week's time. As always, if you want to talk, then you can put comments in the chat below, or you can connect with me through my diary, book an appointment for a complimentary conversation, secretartofhuna.com/diary, and look forward to talking to you very soon. Lots of love, and particularly lovely to see those of you who are here in person. Hi Chantal, hi Joanna, and I'll be back next week. Bye.